right, good morning, good morning, good morning. I want to tell you guys to beware. If you're living in China and you're watching me, thank you so much. You're on your VPN. You're like, hey, man, I don't like being suppressed by my government. We just talked about it earlier. We're talking about it again, ironically. Valve is going to end up saying, hey, we're going to make a Steam just for people of China. They had a meeting, and this was something that was brought to my attention on our Discord. This is slightly old news, but in the vein of the things that we were talking about, how Chinese kind of suppress everything, I am not quite sure how the Chinese people can stand their government at this point. Most people are using VPNs to get into Steam to get their games, but it seems like Valve, in conjunction with Perfect World, which, by the way, the CEO of Perfect World has a company that he's the president of called the Human Corporation, or the Human Software Corporation, which I tried to look up and I could not find exactly the origins of this corporation. It's a very concerning name of a corporation, but I'll leave it at that. And the reporter at the event eventually talks to the Steam man in charge at the event about this, new Steam China, So I wanted to read some of the portions of this interview here for you guys, because I thought this was pretty interesting. And it really sheds light on just how important the Chinese market is to the gaming industry because of the amount of people sitting there, but also the complete lack of balls that these companies have when it comes to just selling out and saying, okay, we're going to sell to you guys and we're going to completely let you guys censor us. Now, of course, we're talking about capitalism. We're talking about companies that want to make a buck. But in the end, you also have to ask yourself, like, is it worth it? Is it worth it to sell out? If you're an American type company or a company that believes in freedom and you're selling to a company that does this and monitors its own people in a communistic setup, are you okay with it? Apparently, a lot of people are. Valve is one of those people, and this is just a sign of the times. Here we got the reporter talking to one of the men at the event, who's one of the directors at Valve. His last name is Powers, and the reporter says, "So Steam is available as it stands in China. Yesterday, I was able to buy, download, play a game without a VPN. So what's behind this? Was it an internal decision?" And Powers says, "So Steam China is going to be a much better experience for the Chinese customer." Okay, first off, that sounds like a really corporate thing to say. Like, oh, Steam China's gonna be so much better with all its limitations and also all the censorship. We're gonna make it the best censored product that's out there. Like, I don't even understand how the Chinese can handle this. China has the ability to get VPNs and go outside to get YouTube, to get other people's opinions of the world. And they can kind of pair themselves up with other countries and hopefully don't fall for their government's rhetoric. And they start to see, like, hey, hit them in their homes the way that the gaming industry does, where once you have games, it's their only escape from this kind of weird 1984 reality that they're living in, and games tend to be their escape, as it is for most of us anyway. And when they're gaming now, like, they're coming in and they're going to see like a Steam China that's going to literally censor every game, like the actual content of the game itself. To me, like, the Chinese aren't standing up and revolting, especially what we talked about with the coronavirus. I just hope they do. I think they're going to get at a breaking point, Anyway, local servers, all localized content, so it's different in that it's just a service target the Chinese gamers, as opposed to right now where Chinese gamers are coming to Steam, but it's it's outside of China that they're accessing. Right now, it's how they're doing it. So was it a decision on Valve's part to start Steam China? I'm not sure. I know the genesis of exactly how the conversation started. What? We've worked with Perfect World for a long time. They've published Dota and CSGO in partnership with Valve. I think in some sense we've been working with them for a long time in terms of what Steam would look like in China, but I don't know the genesis. Now, this guy isn't like a higher up, so, he probably truly doesn't know. The more I think about it, this guy isn't like one of the higher ups. He's just a representative of Valve at this event. And then the reporter says, I guess what I'm dancing around is, are there regulations in China about what's appropriate for a Chinese audience? So was that a driving force behind a Steam China that was a little bit more curated in that sense? Power says, yeah, We want Chinese customers to have really high quality access to Steam games. And that means getting a set of games approved through the appropriate channels. Yeah, the appropriate channels. We know all about the appropriate channels. And a service that is local. I mean, the only benefit really for the Chinese people is that the servers will be local. So hopefully there will be like faster speeds for them when it comes to like the downloads and those that are going to be streaming. If they're offering a streaming service like they do on Steam, that they do here, that we're all aware of. The servers that are right there, they can have fast download times. Features make their quality of life better, obviously. And when it comes to the download times, is it that big of a deal? You know, it depends. It really depends upon how often you're buying games and how cool you are with waiting for those download times. But I mean, that would be the only benefit that I would see on this China Steam that I'm reading about. Will there be some kind of community or forum or discussion area? As I know, that's one part you can't access right now in China. Yeah, I think that's our long-term goal, says Powers, because they're not going to have one. By the way, the article states that they're not going to release like a forum area for people to express their opinions. Wow, what a shocker! I'll link the article down in this highlight when I'm finished with this video. But I thought it was interesting because when you read the article, what it says is that they will not allow like forums initially, and hopefully eventually, like Powers is saying here, that they'll eventually, like, those are the long-term goals, to convince the Chinese dictators that it's okay for people to express their opinions on the Steam forums. God forbid. You know what you're gonna see. You know, if you have these forums, the Chinese people are like, hey, when I download the actual game off of China Steam, I'm able to see some boobs. On this, I'm not particularly able to, so I'm not quite sure I like China Steam. Use your VPN, citizens of China. That's what you would see on the forums, and of course, we don't want to see that. The Chinese government will not allow you to see better versions of what it is they're suppressing. And on the topic of curation, I know that's obviously come up in the past with Steam in the rest of the world, and that's not something you seem to be keen on. Your attitude has been essentially anything that's illegal goes. So have you had a shift in attitude, or is it that you feel China requires a different attitude to that? I mean, obviously it's a different market. Like, this guy is just the most corporate, sleazy, scummy guy. Like, when I read this, he just comes off that way through the text. I mean, obviously it's a different market where there's just a process that games have to go through. This is not like a normal process, Mr. Powers. This is not Austin Powers for sure that we're talking to here. If this is Austin Powers, he'd be like, yeah, baby. Let them have what they want, baby. This is definitely a different Powers. The way we operate Steam worldwide, where it's really developers coming to us, they sign up, they ship their game. You just can't have that same operation here. And so we're working with the processes in place, and we'll get as many games on the platform as you can, but there's just a limit. And by definition, kind of has to be a little bit more curated. No shit that it has to be. Oh, man. Do you think there are some lessons you can learn from that approach that you could maybe apply in a Western environment? I don't know about lessons. This is cracking me up. I'd love to have been a fly on the wall during this interview. I don't know about lessons. I think it'll be interesting to see just how a market reacts to a more curated storefront. I mean, we know a lot of that. I've been at Steam a long time, and I remember when Steam was very curated for a number of reasons as well, that we worked really hard to kind of eliminate over the years some of those barriers. But yeah, I think we'll just be interested in how consumers react to it. Yeah, really? Of course you are. You're gonna wonder. You're gonna wonder if the Chinese citizens are okay with having all these like censored games. This is ridiculous here. This is a ridiculous conversation. And if we do learn something that tells us we should be more open to that kind of storefront, then we'll take that data and consider it. Oh, great. So if this turns out to be successful in one of the world's largest markets, they're going to take that data and apply it to everybody else. Oh, gee, thanks, China. Way to piss on our games, man. I hope this day, just for the sheer numbers that China has, man, that data's going to be skewed and we're all going to get a whole bunch of crap, man. We're all going to get, thanks, China. You just ruined our games, man. You guys better stand up and revolt against this. This is absolutely ridiculous. And there's an expectation as well that companies will sort of self-regulate in a way. I think Tencent is an example where it implemented timelines for younger players off its own back before government regulation came in. By the way, Chinese government came in and they're telling their citizen base that they have, I believe we did the story on this a few months back, where they're limiting the amount of play time, I think, to an hour a day. That might be wrong. Apologies. I cannot remember, but I do remember the story in itself where China is coming in and limiting the amount of hours that people can play during the week and the weekends. Also in conjunction with their new face technology, their face cam technologies, their camera technologies, where they literally are hooking up to people and saying, okay, this is the person, this person is logged in, possibly doing that. Again, that is very speculative, but we do know that they do have the software to look underneath masks and identify somebody based on the software that they do have. We did that story a while back, and that is legit news. There's just policy and laws in place that we have to follow. So yeah, we'll adhere to all of those. Oh, I don't even know if I can finish the rest of this. It's starting to make me, let's keep going. Let's try. I'm going to force myself through this. This is getting ridiculous. Jumping back to the topic of forums again. If I wanted to find something unsavory on the Steam forums in the rest of the world, it wouldn't take me long. Obviously, China being China, that's not going to be able to fly out here. Have you thought about how this reporter is being real? I'm glad about that. Have you thought about how you're going to manage that yet? If you're going to have forums, there have to be some kind of moderation. Yeah, they're gonna have government officials being forum moderators on Steam. That's freaking hilarious. I think we have a little bit, but nothing that's in place that we could talk about at this point for fear of death. Okay, you've talked about how there's going to be a different curated version of the store. Do you have, wait, I can't even finish reading that. Do you have any idea of how that's going to look, even visually? We do. We didn't bring any of that here, and in due time, and hopefully pretty soon, we'll have more information about launch timing, and what it's going to look like. But until we have a bunch of designs for what the experience is going to look like, and it's great. A bunch of designs, yeah, giant Chinese flags and giant stars and the communist leaders, the great communist leaders and dictators over time being the decorative background of Steam's new China Steam. We're all very excited about where it's headed. It really is good. Oh my God. The benefit of having a smaller group of games is you could really feature them in ways that's hard to do on what? That is the biggest line of BS that I've ever heard. Listen to this guy. The benefit of having a smaller group of games is you can really feature them in ways that it's hard to do on the rest of world Steam. So he's trying to make China Steam stand out by saying that having a limited amount of censored games is better than a variety of games at your disposal. Like, can you imagine how this guy's trying to sell this? This is almost sick. I don't know what's more sick. His very capitalistic approach, which, believe me, I love capitalism, but this is capitalism at an extreme, or like this communist background, this backset of this story where everything's going to get censored. It's ridiculous. So we're excited to tell you guys more about that stuff. We're so excited. We're so excited. We're so excited to tell you about our censored game lineup. It's just, I can't talk about it. He keeps referring that he can't talk about it. I don't think it's anything contractual. I think his life is in jeopardy. Oh, all right. Thank you, Max. Yeah. Using that new alert. There's Mom and Zoe putting their hands in the air. Thank you so much, Max Power, for becoming a member and pushing that join button. I really appreciate that. Put some action in here. Max Power putting some action up in this stream. Thank you so much, man. All right, so changing something. The reporters had enough. Like, he's so stressed out. He's like, all right, so changing subjects. A part of the negative sentiment towards one of our rivals, the Epic Game Store, is based on a quite broadly anti-Chinese sentiment, with it being at least part owned by Tencent. absolutely true. This reporter, that is great that he said that. With things like it supposedly being a security risk coming up a lot, justified or not. We talked about Tencent. We talked about how they're buying up all these gaming companies, not just gaming companies, but software companies, telephone communication companies. Tencent, you guys got to look it up on my channel. When you get a chance after the stream, just type in Tencent into my search on the channel and you'll see a story I did about Tencent. And it's very, very disturbing what Tencent's doing. Are you concerned at all that there might be a similar attitude for Steam now that your store of rubber stamping Steam in China, working more closely, respective people here? Great question. I'm glad I continued reading this. Power says, I really don't want to have a comment on other services. Like, he's scrambling. Powers is really scrambling on this. He doesn't even want to answer this question. You can see by the size of this paragraph that he's going to bullshit his way out of this one. It's not really appropriate for me to talk about. We are expecting excitement from Chinese customers. So he's like, let me just focus you back on China Steam is what he's saying. Dota and CSGO have been very well received here. So he's going to like popular titles. He's trying to like get out of this question. He's squirming his way out of this question. And we went through a similar process to get those games through in a Chinese market. Solanthus is not new to us. It's a different animal. It's a bunch of third-party games and it's not all stuff that is ours, but we're really expecting the reception to be quite positive. And as you said earlier, we have a lot of Chinese customers that are customers of Steam now. And we're trying as hard as we can make it as good an experience as possible with payments. This guy literally did not answer this man's question. He's basically like, we're going money, 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 yo. This is the answer to the reporter's question. Powers is like, money, 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 money. Everything's okay. Money, money, money. Everything's okay. That's literally what Powers is saying here. This is how he's answering the question. He's not answering the question at all. He's just, everything's fine. We're a company. We're trying to make money. We're not worried about the social implications, the morality of it, any of the ethical issues about this. It's fine. Profit and money. All right. There we go, guys. There we go. So that's it for that story. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys on the next vid.